For the first time in over 100 years, Aston Villa has won 11 games in a row. Considering the start they made to the season when they couldn't buy a win, what a turnaround. Chelsea won, Aston Villa 2. Mark Donaldson, Janusz Mihalik to pick the bones out of that one. And Janusz, come the end of the season, when we're talking about the biggest games that had the biggest changes between first half and second half, that's got to be in contention. If ever there was a game of two halves, it was this one.
Yes, it was. But yeah, I mean, such domination by Chelsea in the first half. I don't remember, a game like that, right? There's comebacks and games of two halves, as you've mentioned. But the first one was, the XG of Aston Villa, 0.000 shots, zero, just about everything you can imagine. And I don't know, like 23% possession for Aston Villa as well. It was as bad as it gets. And you were just wondering, how Villa are going to get back into this game, aside from the fact that they've done it before. They're known for that. And the second part is that they have, if the season ends right now, the best manager in the league, and it's not even close.
What's the strongest narrative from this game today? Where do you want to go with this?
Chelsea, because I don't know what they're good at. I really don't. Every so often you see a great team like we did in the first half, where everything works, right? The pressing, the counter pressing, the recovery of the ball. You have Cole Palmer, who can do a lot of good things, right? You have Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo bossing the midfield in that game. Pedro Neto was absolutely wonderful. Even Garnacho, right? The toxic Garnacho, who had to leave the toxic environment of Manchester United, actually looked good, looked dangerous early, right? So you have this team, and other times, and I thought that actually before it even happened, right? You have like a team of individuals where they're all on their own page and they kind of want to do their own thing, and nothing comes out of it but disappointment. So I continue to think that there's a tons of talent. I don't know how long we're going to be saying, well, they're young, they're building, they're good. Obviously, they're in the Champions League, they're there or thereabout this season, and certainly it's a process for them. But Jekyll and Hyde is probably the best explanation I can think of. But really, there isn't that one thing where I can see this identity from Chelsea like you see from other big clubs.
They're a case study that you could write a book about, because when they're good, they're very, very good. And they win in the first half. But when they're bad, they're horrid, to quote a nursery rhyme. In that first half, yes, they were good. Yes, they played well. Yes, they did everything you've said. Do they have an inability to kill teams off and not score enough goals, though?
Well, I mean, it's easy to say that right now. They certainly had their chances in the first half. I remember Cole Palmer went very, very close with a great shot. The same with Fernandez. João Pedro, I think, had one when Emiliano Martinez saved it as well. So, look, I mean, they had their chances. They didn't put him away. They thought João Pedro is going to continue the start he had. Remember when Chelsea were the best team in the world, winning the FIFA Club World Cup, and then Delap kind of looked good early on until the injury, the silliness of the red cards, and all that stuff. So I think that in essence, maybe you're right, but I think it's easy to say at the moment. They can certainly get better in that. They certainly create chances. So that's something that you can't take away from them.
It's a 10th goal of the season since he joined for João Pedro. I'm not sure how much he knew about it. He definitely got the touch. But I want to focus on Emiliano Martinez, who's a brilliant goalkeeper. But he was acting the clown here. He was trying to instigate a free kick in his favor. He was trying to instigate contact and initiate contact. What is he doing here, and why is he doing it?
Well, I mean, it's a tough one on that corner. Remember, there was like 4 Chelsea players pushing him around everywhere, so he's got the right to defend himself. I don't know if I mean, goalkeepers goalkeepers are goalkeepers. They're crazy, right? You have to be a left winger, and a goalkeeper always have to be off as well. But I don't know if I got the same impression as you did, unless I'm missing a certain.
He doesn't need to, Janusz. He doesn't need to get involved. Just stand your ground. He went looking for a couple of those. Just be a goalkeeper. Don't try and do all that nonsense.
I think we differ here. I think we differ on this, because I didn't see anything in particular that got me to this point where it got you. But I mean, no, I think we just differ. I didn't see anything out of ordinary in his play today.
That's fine. No, look, I love him as a goalkeeper. He's a brilliant goalkeeper. But as a goalkeeper, focus is one of the biggest things that you need, along with concentration. He's involving himself in distractions there that he doesn't need to get involved in. And if I'm a player...
You're talking on the goal? You're talking on the goal?
Yeah.
I urge you to watch this again as it happened. I mean, 4 players all over him. I mean, I'd fight for myself if I was him.
That's fine. No issues. It's all subjectivity. That's what we're all about. It's another good delivery by Reece James, and João Pedro's in the right place at the right time. And Chelsea got the goal that they deserved at that stage. So what happened? What happened after that?
Yes. Well, as I've said, I mean, when the game restarted, Chelsea looked good, looked very much the same. And, I've talked about Unai Emery, and, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But because he's done it over and over again, as I'm sure has been said, even in our commentary, it was a big surprise in terms of Onana not starting and putting Morgan Rogers in a little bit different position. But we have to remember, it's a short bench for Aston Villa. Here's Aston Villa winning 11 straight matches, really having no transfer window. Gasson is the only one, and he's not even here, right? He's gone to the African Cup of Nations right now, but they really haven't had a chance to buy anybody. In fact, they lost players. But the substitutions for Aston Villa in the second half made all the difference. And can you say one off? You could. I won't, because I've seen it happen before. And B, Chelsea also made a lot of substitutions, and pretty good ones as well, and they made no difference. So, I think that the first 2 or 3 substitutions took place in the 59th minute. And I made note, 61st minute, 2 minutes later, remember, was a great counter there. Robert Sanchez, who was wonderful, stopped Kamara. Ollie Watkins, 63rd, scores a goal, 1-1. 66, Maatsen had a great chance. Robert Sanchez, once again, wonderful. Ollie Watkins was saved by Sanchez a minute later, I think. And then the goal, Ollie Watkins again. And all that, even Bogard, who just came on the pitch, had a play in that, right? Because I think it was Badiashile playing out of the back, but Bogard made a pass there in the sequence as well. So I think that's what changes matches. Sometimes you introduce 2 or 3 players, you change the shape to what players are used to. And that's, I'm talking, of course, Onana, in the center of the pitch with his physicality, Rogers differently, Tielemans all of a sudden playing a little bit higher where he enjoys, and the entire game changed. And the sequence, it could be one-off, but the sequence that I gave in terms of times was immediate. From the 59th minute, 2 minutes later, all of a sudden that counter where they put 2 one-touch passes or 3 one-touch passes, you get going. Ollie Watkins got going. Rogers, all of a sudden, great through ball on the goal as well. Sometimes coaches do that. They have that impact. They know when to do it. Sometimes they get a little bit lucky. But, Unai Emery is showing that he's the Premier League manager of the season at this stage.
10 minutes after those Villa changes, which, as you've quite rightly referenced, led to Ollie Watkins scoring, Chelsea made changes of their own. Delap, Gittins and Gusto coming on for João Pedro, Garnacho and Cucurella. Was that enough? And could it be an issue that it was Maresca having to dictate things from on high because he had a suspension and it was Willy Caballero down trackside? Could more have been done by Chelsea to neutralise the Villa subs and the impact that they had?
No, once the momentum shifts like that, right? I mean, it's so difficult. Just as Villa couldn't do anything really in the first half, right? And Unai Emery was there on the pitch yelling and running around as he often does. And I mean, they didn't have a kick. Villa didn't have a kick. With their manager on the sideline, with everybody they had on the pitch, zeros. If you look at the statistics, they had 0 in just about, I think, every category. So look, I mean, is it better to have your manager close to the players for them to feel, or hear to what I say? Of course, but I don't think that changes. I think when Chelsea made those substitutions, the momentum was such that it was too late. Yes, you expect your substitutions to make a difference because getting Estevao, although young, Delap and Gusto could, but I think it was too late. And the quality of the substitutions from Villa, by then, I think it was too late. Once Chelsea started to make the substitutions, I think the game was already, almost done, really. And Villa, I mean, Villa looked like they were going to score one after another, right? I mean, Robert Sanchez had a wonderful game.
As someone who played the game and no doubt suffered injuries of your own, it's not a case of someone's fit again and that's him or her back to normal the way that they were prior to getting hurt. Cole Palmer is the one I want to talk about. 72 minutes today before being replaced by Estevao. And the manager has said, look, he can't play 3 games in a week just yet. How long do you think it'll be before we see the Cole Palmer that Chelsea fans remember before the injury?
Yeah, not long. I mean, even already today, I mean, there were a number of plays where he was absolutely wonderful. One of those few players that we know in any league, I don't care where it is, can change the game all by himself. I mean, at any given moment. So I thought that today already, after a long layoff, I think there were moments where he was toying with Villa. Remember, a couple nutmegs. I mean, 3 players around him, getting rid of just about everybody. Look, I mean, Chelsea, when they started, I think they were close to their best lineup that they can put together, right? I mean, you can certainly ask a question of Badiashile, and he certainly contributed negatively towards the end of the game because, if Colwell's fit, you want him there. The Rabiot perhaps should have started Fofana. I don't know why, but maybe, Fofana was normally playing there as of late. But other than that, at this moment, and Estevao may have a say about that later on. Give him time, very, very young, getting used to the league and the physicality and all of that. But this is the best lineup, and they showed it in the first 45 minutes. Reece James is right back, not as a central midfielder. He can play there. He can play there well, but I still think that you see how much Pedro Neto and Cole Palmer are thriving on that side, right? Because Palmer usually goes towards there anyway. So that was their best lineup, and for 45 minutes, I'm saying, my goodness, this is going to be the game that Villa loses. It wasn't meant to be. So therefore, they just need to put it together. As I've said, this is a team. This is not a team yet. They're a team at times, but still a lot of individuals.
Well, they lost this one after Ollie Watkins got his second of the game in the 84th minute. Second time someone's come off the bench this season at Stamford Bridge and scored 2 goals. Danny Welbeck was the other. A run of form for a player who, when he's in top form, is unplayable at times. But he's not had that top form. And today it was kind of Malin and it was Morgan Rogers in a more withdrawn role. This is a guy in Ollie Watkins with these stats. He only came on in the 58th minute for Buendia. So what is he now? Is he a super sub, or is he someone you start when Villa go to Arsenal in midweek?
Well, of course you start him, on the back of these 2 goals, you do. But I mean, he's a starter, right? He's just had an up and down season. I remember he's a wonderful season before that. And, when he came on the scene and sometimes, that's what happens. A little bit, loss of form, and you're looking for that confidence, as all strikers have to have. If a striker doesn't have confidence, useless on the pitch, right? You can contribute in many, many different ways. If you're a midfielder, defender, one block, one sliding tackle, whatever it may be. For strikers, they live on that, right? That's what they're there for. And they don't think of anything else, right? So even running around, helping defensively and all of that, it's great. It's good for us to say, well, he didn't score today. He didn't have a shot, but I'll tell you what, he worked so hard. Great. That's part of the game. Everybody needs to work hard. But for strikers, you have to be consistent. I'm not saying every game, but every other game you have to have a goal. So this season didn't start for him this way. But maybe this is a beginning for Ollie Watkins. So he starts, because how could you possibly not, learning what Unai Emery has learned, because he knows deep down that he's made a mistake, right? He didn't plan on this great comeback once again in the second half. Not just with Ollie Watkins, but with Onana and all of that. But it's festive season. Games coming thick and fast. I'm sure you're going to be talking about Arsenal Villa pretty soon. So Unai Emery made a mistake, rectified it in the second half. His team answered, and Ollie Watkins is fighting for himself. And he showed Unai Emery that he's still a very good striker.
Would you have Ollie Watkins in the conversation for best header of a football among the Premier League strikers?
Well, he's pretty clean. I would say that, right? There are headers and there are headers, but his timing, his range of heading is also very, very impressive. So he's up there, but I don't keep these rankings. So if I said yes, you could give me probably 5 examples that I'm wrong, or our listeners.
I think you're right. I just think he's a very good and a very clean header of the ball. But when you have the space that he had to score the winning goal, I mean, look, they have a set-piece coach in Austin McPhee, but Chelsea have worked on defending set plays. How can you get that so wrong and allow possibly their most dangerous player to get that amount of time to score the winning goal?
Yeah. I mean, if it was that easy, all those defenders, all these players know, who the dangerous players are, just like everybody knows that Arsenal is dangerous on set pieces. And here we are, 17 times different teams have scored a goal. So yeah, it's winning your individual battle. And, look like Gusto was there. Do we say that Gusto is the sort of player that should be marking Ollie Watkins? Probably not. And I bet you he wasn't the one. It's a little bit of zone, a little bit man-to-man. And all of a sudden you find yourself against a guy that Malo Gusto knew immediately that he had zero chance for that, right? People will be saying, well, if he's in front or maybe behind, maybe his starting position, as you've said, Ollie Watkins is so good that once you give him that little extra second to get above everybody else, it doesn't matter. Your height doesn't matter. How good you are defensively doesn't matter. So, something was missed for sure. They'll go over that, and these things do happen. You have to be proactive, and you have to read the game just a half a second before the opponent, and that didn't happen.
Villa go to Arsenal in midweek without Matty Cash, who was booked for a foul on the half-hour mark, and without Babukar Kamara, who was booked for a foul in the 78th minute. Who'll they miss more out of those two?
Matty Cash is important because he's been informed. He starts every game. It's going to be Trossard or Martinelli there, that one-on-one battle. You can hide a little bit, right, in the center of the midfield, especially with Onana now starting. He's the stronger of the two. I'm talking about Kamara and Onana. So I suspect, that midfield's no picnic, that battle between Arsenal, depending on who's going to play there. So it's a hard one, but I think so much happens for Arsenal in the wide areas. I mean, they do their job winning their battles and keeping possession in the center of the pitch, but ultimately it's in the wide areas where they're so dangerous, right? Be it Saka on one side taking defenders one-on-one, or as I said, Trossard, or it may be Martinelli. So I just think that Matty Cash may be the one, because he's so trusted by Unai Emery. I think he started every game this season, or close to it. But yeah, like picking between your mother and father at this stage,
3 points separate the top 3 with 1 game remaining until we reach the halfway stage of the Premier League. So 3-3, and is it a 3-horse race? Are you saying that win, and if they avoid defeat against Arsenal, that Villa are very much in this title race?
I'm going to try to stay consistent, Mark, and it's true because you and I are partners, right? You asked me the same question last week when they beat Manchester United. My answer is yes, they are right now. Look where they are. Look how far away they are from the top. Realistically, of course, looking at their depth or lack of injuries, suspensions, player at the African Cup of Nations, of course, their squad is not as good as Manchester City or Arsenal. So I understand that, but you asked me last weekend and said, well, let's wait till Chelsea. Look what happens against Chelsea. Now another big test. So reality probably is that this is not going to last but they are at the moment. You have to give it, it's too easy to say, oh no, because of all the reasons I gave them. They're fighting for their lives. They're very close. We're in January just about. So they are, but ultimately they'll come up just short.
Last question. What are Chelsea?
Again, bit of a couple, but I said it already. I don't know. I'm trying to find out. I've said that a little bit earlier. I can't make out what they're good at. I think Chelsea is a team, obviously, that on a given day when the organization is perfect, like it was in United States for the FIFA World Cup, like it was in the first half today. There's a lot of rotation. There's a lot of young players. I don't think that Maresca has settled on a starting 11 like other teams do, right? If you look at Manchester City, they are settled finally. Same players for the most part play. Same with Arsenal for the most part. Same with Liverpool for the most part. I often see Chelsea team that's kind of, chopped and changed. And we're still waiting to find out. And that's why I think we get the seesaw from Chelsea, where they can be great, but they can also lose at any time. So Chelsea are a long way away from being a true team. Let's put it that way.
And if Sunderland beat Leeds on Sunday, they go above Chelsea. It was a super first half from the Blues, but it was a game of two halves. And it was an even better second half from Villa. They win it by 2-1 at the Bridge and 11 consecutive wins for Unai Emery's men. Bye for now.